I'm sure Dietmar ran you through the details of the proposal, and he did an excellent job in pushing this forward. The proposal built jointly by Austria and Estonia has been forwarded to the IT services in the Commission that are responsible, along with DG Connect, of the implementation of the EID nodes and the EIDAS regulation. From our perspective, I'll quickly share this. So from our perspective, well, we continue working together with Austria and Estonia in establishing a proper authentication scheme between us. It is the beginning. We are trying to make this compatible with the EIDAS regulation, as I was saying, which is based on the EID building block. Now, many member states have already made available EID nodes. To join such a node with an authentication scheme is it's not an easy process. We are not there yet with LRI, but it's a very good beginning. Initially, in the LRI project, it was foreseen that the central LRI would redirect the users to their national authentication services. But in recent years, with the EIDAS regulation, we decided to move towards a standard approach, which would be EID. The first step would be to build, as Dietmar shortly explained, a profile that would contain the authentication and the billing, the payment information about the user. We will continue on this line. We foresee changes in the future because the European Commission is setting up a work group in 2024 that will work on adding roles, professional roles, to the EID. For the moment, EID is only about identifying the person, authenticating the person. But with adding roles to the scheme would allow authorizing the person as a legal professional. Now, our initiative here in LRI comes before this EID 2.0, and this is the way to go, I think. One next step would be building a circle of trust. It's something that existed in the predecessor of LRI in EU lease project, which means basically that a user that is identified as a notary, let's say in Austria, would also be granted all the specific access rights in the other connected countries, which would mean they would have extended search capabilities and they will be able to get an extended data set as well. So this is briefly our intention for the near future with LRI. So Matthias, back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Gabriel, for that. Actually, we have already had a good discussion here about authentication. I don't know if there are any questions now left regarding the authentication issue to the Euro Commission. Let me just look to the audience. Okay, no, then Gabriel, I would suggest just to proceed to the payment issue.
Payment is the second challenge, or maybe the first as complexity. Uh, we know that many of the land register system in the member states offer documents for a fee. So the success of the LRI project is directly dependent on offering a viable payment solution. Um, the initiative is a first in the European Commission. The need first arose with the BRIS project, the Business Register Interconnection System, which has been online for 1.5 years now, and it currently proposes to users um, free documents. So each member state is able to offer data for free. This is not the case for LRI. Many of the member states will require payment. So um, a new call for tender will be launched soon to contract a payment services provider. We have launched in the past a couple of calls for tenders, but the specificity of our needs are quite difficult to fulfill by existing companies on the market. So we have smoothed over some of the technical details. We have taken out some of the components, such as calculating VAT, and we are moving forward with a new call for tender. Once we have the payment provider based on their specification, we will integrate that with the tax calculation module. This is this module is ready. We are finalizing the test, and it will be made available to the member states for demonstration purposes later this year in October. So this will mean that a user that an Austrian user, let's say, that wants to buy documents from Estonia, they will have to pay VAT on it. And depending on whether Estonia consider this a service or an electronic service, the way the VAT is calculated can be different. Now, the complexity comes from the fact that some member states charge VAT for land register data, while others don't. So we will have to find a middle way for this. The next building block of the payment solution would be, of course, invoicing. And in our discussions in the LRI group and in the BRIS and the company law group, three options have been proposed. One would be that each member state individually generates an invoice and sends it directly to the user. That would mean that the user would get invoices in the language of the member state where they bought the document, which they don't necessarily understand. A second solution would be that the member states send to the central LRI their invoices, which are put together and then sent in one time to the user. And then the third solution, which appears to be the favorite in the company law group, and we foresee the same type of choice for LRI. So this option would be that LRI, the central LRI, gathers the data, the invoicing data from the member states, and we build at the central level an invoice that keeps the identification elements of the originating land register, but is put in a unified form, and that invoice would be sent to the user. The presentation would be in the language of the user, so translation would be done at our level. So this would be the three building blocks. And this is where we are with this. So feedback from you would be more than welcome on the three aspects of it. And Matthias?
Yes, thank you very much. Let me just adjust that a bit. Okay, I just would like to add here that I think I've mentioned that today already, probably a couple of times, that we also did some analysis in our LRI project, which resulted in an official deliverable, so a document that we have to deliver within our project. We will publish this deliverable and also some others also on the website after the conference. So we will publish the analysis deliverable there, but also the one we did on authentication. And within this the regular analysis document, as said before, we also took a look at the challenges that we face when dealing with payment, and we have listed quite some of them. I've picked out only, I would say, the most the one of higher interest. That's actually most of them have been mentioned by Gabriel already. First of all, of course, and we have seen that in a demonstration before, there will be a shopping basket at the place of the central LRI, but of course you have to build a mixed shopping basket, as we have seen it, where you can put all the different documents, no matter of their origin, into it. You have to deal with currencies, of course. Most of the countries in the European Union by now have the euro, but I checked Wikipedia yesterday. It's 11 currencies that are still official currencies in Europe, including the euro, actually including the Schweizer Franken. There is one very small Italian city where the Schweizer Franken is official currency. I didn't know that. So probably that would reduce it to 10, but still you have to deal with the issue of currency. Gabriel has already mentioned tax calculation. It's not only taking into account the different types or different amounts of VAT in the different member states, but it also depends if this service that we provide as land registers, if that service is considered as a service or if it is considered as an electronic service. So there is a difference that has to be taken into account as well. You have mentioned the invoice creation already. So of course you need to do the calculation of the total price, including the fees and the correct text. And then is the question, who will issue the invoice? Thank you very much for explaining these three options how to do so from my point of view, if I might say so. I also think that the third option would be the most convenient one for the users, but I'm looking forward to your opinions here. And last but not least, it is of course about money distribution. If somebody buys documents from 10 different member states, then of course these land registers need to be paid. And the payment provider or the commission or whoever collects the money will have to distribute this money accordingly, of course. And not only the money regarding the fees, but also the money for the taxes. So I think the approach that we would recommend, and that you also followed, if I understood correctly, Gabriel, is that we separate these complex issue into smaller chunks. Then it's easier to deal with, and to provide services, not one payment service who does all of that, but to have different services that deal with only part of the issue. So you have mentioned that there is already a tax calculation module in place. So I would tick the checkbox there. That is done. But there are still some other issues missing, lacking. But the problem is getting smaller and smaller. So I think that's a very good approach. And it's not probably it's not only about distributing the issues among separate competent services, or components, but also to distribute it among different component service providers. So there could be a service provider for payment, there could be a provider or a competent institution for tax calculation, there could be a separate provider for e-invoicing. Maybe it's getting a bit too complicated, but it should just give you a general idea. Of course, there could be only one provider to do all of these things, but in general, my general point is that I think it's necessary to make the challenges we have here, to make them smaller by dividing them into smaller chunks, so to say. And this is, we've heard it already also from Gabriel, it's not only an issue of the land register, but it's also an issue for BRIS, for the business registers, but also for the insolvency registers. So whatever the solution might be for the land register, the same solution should be applied to business registers and to the business register interconnection and the insolvency register connection as well, because there is obviously no point in having different solutions for different systems. All right. I would like to give the floor to you, to the audience, if there are any remarks or any questions to Gabriel or to me or whoever you think is competent. So please raise your hands. Okay, I can see no raised hand.
Matthias,
yes.
Until we get questions or not, I would like to confirm indeed what you said about the mixed shopping basket. Indeed, it's one of the functionalities that we will have. So a user can put in the same shopping basket and buy with only one payment documents from several land registers in Europe. And then for the currency conversion, the payment providers offer the possibility of showing to the user a total amount in their own currency if they choose to do so. So they would do a dynamic currency conversion. But we have seen that this is not always to the advantage of the user. So sometimes it's better to just proceed to the payment with the separate amounts in British pounds, in euro, and so on. And then the currency conversion can be done directly by the card company of the user, by the credit card. And that can be more interesting for the user. And then you made a good point on the distribution of the fees of the money to the land registers. There, in our specifications to the payment provider, we are asking explicitly to have back office functionalities that will be available to national administrations, where they could come in and check their own state of their accounts. So they will have a direct channel for checking their accounting themselves. And the money will not transit at any point through the commission website of the e-justice portal. From the shopping basket, when the user proceeds to the payment, they will be redirected to the payment provider, where they will fill out the credit card number and the PIN and everything. This will not be done on the e-justice portal. Mm-hmm. It's necessary to have a certain accreditation to be able to deal with such business.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Let me ask once more if now there are any questions in the audience. No, if that's not the case, Gabriel, then thank you very much again for your contributions to share your insights and also the outlook, especially now regarding the payment and the authentication with us. Yes, may I ask the audience to give a big applause for Gabriel, please? I hope you can hear that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Matthias, thank you. And I hope you will have a great two-day meeting, and it will be useful for everyone.
Okay. Thank you very much, Gabriel, and all the best to Brussels.